On the phones from Iowa, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Chad. Good to be with you.
Thanks for coming on today. You've been in Iowa over the weekend. You're still in Iowa, and you're working the phones, I believe, correct?
Well, doing a couple of things. First, I'm the chair for the Cruz campaign in Texas, which early vote starts, by the way, 2 weeks from this week. We'll be voting quickly for March 1 Super Tuesday. I'm a surrogate speaker, so tonight, the way it works, Chad, in Iowa, for your listeners, different than our primary. You know, in a primary in Texas and most states, you know, you're in unless you wait till the last day when the lines are long before closing time. You can get in and out in 10 or 15 minutes and vote. That's parking, walking in, walking out. In Iowa, it's a 2 to 3 hour event. It's think of the caucus as a community meeting, and there'll be 1,000 locations tonight across Iowa, 99 counties, and the crowds will be as small as 25 or 30 in someone's living room, and neighbors will speak for each candidate. Most of the groups are a little bit bigger, maybe 100 to 200, and can meet anywhere literally. And then you'll have the larger groups that, 700, 800 to 1,000. So I will be, Ted can't be everywhere, of course, so I will be speaking at one of the larger events tonight. In fact, I'm going to be in Des Moines, and I'll be with Marco Rubio. He'll be representing himself, so I'll be up against Marco. And we each get a couple of minutes because there are 10 candidates. I think we each get, 3 minutes, so that's 30 minutes. Starting at 7 o'clock, we'll start with the Star-Spangled Banner and go right into candidate presentations. I think we threw by lottery. I was here for Rick Perry in 2012. As I recall, we'll draw the names out of the hat in order of who goes first. And so the people will hear each of our 3-minute or 2-minute pitches, and then they'll vote. And they'll go to their corners, and they'll caucus. They'll talk, and they'll try to persuade each other. In some places, because not all the candidates have surrogate speakers, even for the bigger caucuses, it'll just be citizens standing up and saying, look, I'm here on behalf of candidate such and such. And that's how it works. And then the votes are turned in. And that whole process takes an hour and a half to do by the time they calculate the votes. So by about 9 o'clock Central Time tonight, we'll have a good idea of who's going to finish first or second. Ted Cruz is going to do very well. Our ground game here is unbelievable. He has 12,000 volunteers on the ground. That's mostly Iowan, but hundreds of Texans have come up. I'm here with a number of legislators as well. Over the weekend, we made 27,000 calls Saturday alone to get the vote out. Mm-hmm. And, we're battling Donald Trump, of course, who doesn't have a ground game to speak of at all, or any volunteers. I think he had, I'm told, 6 people at his place Saturday. We had about 80. Again, most of those were Texans. The Iowans are out working their areas. And then Marco Rubio, that's what the polls show, those 3, and they'll vie for first, second, or third. I believe Ted's going to do very well vying for first or second. And what makes his campaign different, Chad, than Mike Huckabee or Rick Santorum, 2 friends of mine and good guys who won in the past, they didn't have any money and they didn't have organization, so they won Iowa, and that was the extent of it. Ted has more money in the bank that he's raised than any other candidate, except Trump, who has his unlimited checkbook. And Ted has 200,000 volunteers statewide, nationally. And so leaving tonight, wherever he finishes, it'll be a strong finish for Ted. Out of the, started out 16 candidates, he's going to do very well. And he'll move on to the other states. Nevada's a caucus state in a few weeks. South Carolina is a winner-take-all primary. And New Hampshire next week is a proportionate primary. And then come to Texas on March 1st.
Visiting with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Okay, in this Iowa caucus, what's interesting about this is neighbors talk to each other. Voters talk to you. They talk to the other surrogates who are out there.
Yes.
They want to be convinced. So I'm going to come at you from a Trump supporter standpoint, because I think he's in a battle with Donald Trump to finish first place. I think Rubio finishes third, a strong third, but that's where I think Rubio finishes. So
don't be surprised, by the way, Chad, if Trump doesn't get his vote out, and he's relying on his name and his rallies and just TV commercials. He has no GOTV, get out the vote effort like I had and everybody has when you run for office. You have to call your voters and get them to the polls. If his voters actually don't turn out, and the blizzard that's expected is going to come in late tonight, so it won't affect the turnout. But if his voters don't come out, he could drop to third.
Is that a buzz? That. Because I spoke with Eric Erickson earlier on the show, and he said that's the buzz in Iowa. Is that the same thing you're hearing as well? Is that Trump finishes third?
Yeah, I think he could. I was on with Fox with Martha McCallum and Bill Hemmer yesterday, and I told Martha as I was leaving the set, actually, I said, Martha, don't be surprised. She said, so what do you really think? And I said, well, I told you what I really think, but I said, don't be surprised that Trump finishes third. And the reason for that, Chad, is that he has the greatest opportunity, I guess, to do very well or very poorly, because
right.
we've never seen a campaign like it before. I'm confident Ted is one or two, and I'm confident that Rubio is two or three.
Okay,
it could. Yeah, so you had a question for me.
Yeah. As if a Donald Trump supporter comes up to you and says, "I'm tired of the politicians as usual. I'm tired of Washington. I'm mad, and I think Donald Trump is going to take us to the promised land." How do you convince that Trump supporter to go to Ted Cruz?
Two things. First of all, I'm going to say what you have done in your life does matter. It's not that people can't change their mind and take a new position on an issue. But if you look at Donald Trump's history, he has a long history of being all over the map on issues. He's now saying what you want to hear, but has he ever really proven that he's pro-life, that he's for securing the border, that he's for repealing Obamacare? So that would be one issue. Ted has a long track record and in the Senate of fighting on these issues, so we know without question where Ted's going to be. But then I would add this, Chad. I would say, but more importantly, here's what I want you to think about. And I'm going to talk about this tonight in the caucus when I'm up against Rubio, that the next president, and this hasn't been talked about a lot or at all, hardly in the debates, the next president could pick 3 to 5 Supreme Court judges.
Yes.
And those Supreme Court judges are actually going to be in play long after whoever we elect president is gone from office in 8 years. These people could be there 25 to 40 years. And I know without question that Ted Cruz will nominate and fight for and get approved through the Senate rock-solid conservative constitutionalists who will interpret the Constitution on the Supreme Court in the plain language of the law that our founding fathers meant it to be, not call it a living Constitution or a changing Constitution or misinterpret it like they have on, I think, Roe v. Wade or Obamacare. And so for me, Mr. Hasty, the reason I'd asked you not to vote for Donald Trump but to vote for Ted Cruz, and I respect your views, but the Supreme Court will determine the future of our children and our grandchildren and our nation. And I have no question, no doubt, of who Ted Cruz will nominate and put on the Supreme Court. And that's a difference maker. If everything else in your view is equal, if experience doesn't matter, if position and policy doesn't matter, that's what you should decide on, because Donald Trump could put anybody up for the Supreme Court. I don't have a clue who he might put up. And we can't handle a Supreme Court who continues to turn America upside down.
And I think that's an excellent issue that you bring up, that you're right, has not been discussed enough. Okay, in the next minute or so, because I know you've got time restraints, you're going up against Marco Rubio.
Yes.
Good luck.
He's a nice guy. I know Marco a little bit. He's very nice, very smart.
Well, what's the difference between the two in your mind?
The difference between the two in my mind is I think Ted is, and look, I'm a rock-solid conservative, and I think Ted is the legitimate, only rock-solid conservative who won't compromise his principles and values. Doesn't mean you don't work with others to get things done. I mean, I found a way to never violate my principles and values as a senator, lieutenant governor, and still figure a pathway to get things done. I'm really concerned about the Gang of Eight bill that Marco pushed, which was an amnesty bill. That's real, and I understand. Marco was trying to accomplish something, but I believe it was going the wrong direction from day one. Ted never wavered on that issue. Ted just doesn't waver on issues. So look. If I believe at the end of the day, and maybe Trump surprises us all tonight. Look, if Trump has a massive turnout tonight and they win, then that's Ted will still be in great shape, and Marco will move on. But I believe the race could likely come down to Ted and to Marco at the end. But it may be all three. It's not going to be decided tonight or in the next 30 days.
Right.
But with that said, of the two, I just think that Ted is by far the most consistent conservative. They're both bright young men. I also like the fact that Ted Ted literally has memorized the Constitution.
Yeah.
And there are some people in this race that I don't think have read it. I know Marco has, but I mean, I don't know that Trump's ever read it, and Hillary doesn't pay attention to it. So those things matter to me. And very selfishly, in Texas, we need a president who understands Texas, and it's great if they're from Texas, who understands the oil and gas industry, how important it is, and to protect it, get the EPA off our back, who understands the border issue. Look, we benefit. We benefit when the president is from Texas. So for bias interest, that's an argument. But and that doesn't play in Iowa well. But the truth is, for Texans, we do lead the nation. We are the 12th largest economy. We are important to our country and to the world. So we need a president of the White House who really understands who we are as Texans and what we need to help lead the country, because we're the leader in the country. No other large state leads. We do. Not California, not New York, not Florida. We're the leader. And so all of those things were when Ted called me in September, I was honored. He asked me to chair his state campaign in Texas and also work for him as time allowed me in other areas. And I said, absolutely, I'm all in. He's the best. I believe he's the best person for the White House, but he's also the best person for the White House for Texas. And, we are Texans, and that means something to us, our jobs and our border and our industry. So all those things are important. Hey, I got to run, Chad.
Yeah, absolutely.
To go to the next meeting.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, thank you very much. Have a good one. Get your heavy coat ready there in Iowa.